Hey, Jordan, it's good to talk to you again. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, likewise. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, totally. I like having a variety of guests on the show as opposed to just, there's only so much that can be said about picking the weight up and putting it down and, controlling your food intake.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Diet and exercise. But if it were it so easy, I would look like you
And it
instead of
really,
like me.
there's a lot to be said for it being that easy, actually. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of little things that you put together and it all works, but it's kind of like, the old saying is the best diet is the one that you're going to stick to kind of thing.
Yeah,
There's truth in that. I mean,
there is. People always go, "Oh, you do CrossFit. Oh, that's, it's not the optimal blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Wait, just stop. It's fun, so I go."
yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, fair enough." Like, yeah, I'm sure if I did these different Olympic lifts, I could work out less and, blah blah blah. But here's the thing. I'm not going to go to the gym and do that because that looks really boring.
Yeah.
So, I'm just not going to work out at all.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, that's something that in emailing with people that I'm not an anti-CrossFit person. I think if you have a bad coach, it's a bad idea and it can be dangerous. But if you have a good coach and you're not going to be stupid about it, I understand that having fun, a group thing that you can go do with your friends and stuff, and especially if you're not. Because maybe it's not the best way to build to maximize muscle size or maximize strength, but you can definitely get in shape doing it. And if that's what if it's you enjoy it and you look forward to it, then that's for you. Like for me, I enjoy weightlifting. I like waking up early. I look forward to it, so it works.
Yeah, it makes sense if you really like it, and that's the same thing we teach at the Art of Charm, right? A lot of people go, "Oh, this is going to be painful. This is going to be awful." And if you're going up and approaching strangers, or you're a guy trying to date women, or you're trying to pitch your business, or you're trying to sell yourself in some way, it can be really awful. But if you gamify it, you make it fun, you get some positive feedback from it, then you won't be able to stop doing it, which is great. And it's the same thing with working out, right? You hate vegetables until you just tell your brain, these are good and you enjoy them. And then
Yeah.
eventually that sort of sticks. And now I'm the guy that's like, can we have Brussels sprouts for dinner? And my girlfriend's like, okay. And my mom's like, who are you? Right? Because when I was a kid, I would throw those down in the garbage disposal the second she went to the bathroom.
Yeah. That's there was a guy. I forget his name. He was like a known chef guy, a celebrity chef guy, and he wrote a book where I forget the name of it, "The Man Who Ate Everything" or something like that. And his thing was he made the list of all of his foods that he didn't like. I mean, nasty as shit, monkey brains and whatever. And he had to eat every one. I think it was 8 times or 10 times or something like that. It was some number that he had to eat each one of those foods on his list that he hated the most, and made it a whole fun thing, and what everyone around the world eating all this weird stuff, and found that I think it was around 8 to 10 times. Maybe he had to eat the stuff 20 times or 15 times. I mean, it took him an entire year to do this. And in the end, what he found that if you eat something enough, with only a couple exceptions, he came to actually like all these foods that he hated. So it's a similar thing. Anything that's uncomfortable at first is not fun. I mean, it's who likes sucking at something or feeling awkward or if something, whether it's food, it tastes like crap, but you do it enough and it becomes comfortable.
Yeah, that's true. And obviously the game here for you guys is to get people interested in nutrition and fitness and actually make a habit out of it. Otherwise, they're just listening to you talk about it and reading you write about it with no tangible result, which is bad news.
Exactly. And so let's segue into what you do. So because I don't know. I mean, some of the readers and listeners are going to be familiar with our previous interview. Maybe they'll have come across you just on their internet travels. But so what exactly is the Art of Charm?
The Art of Charm essentially is a company that teaches, this is going to sound like mumbo jumbo, but basically we teach emotional intelligence in a way that anyone can learn and master. So what I mean by that is, and we specialize in men and dating advice and relationship building and networking for business and things like that. So guys will come in, and anyone from SEAL Team 6, Green Beret type guy, to entrepreneurs, to just college guys that are like, hey, I know that my people skills are what is going to differentiate me in the job market. So teach me, Yoda, right? So we have a team of coaches, therapists, all-star performers here, performance coaches that teach people how to really sell themselves, manage first impressions, create really meaningful, solid connections with people. And we do that day in and day out in our week-long residential program. So guys fly in from all over the world. In fact, I'm looking at my classroom now, and I've got quite an eclectic mix of guys from Denmark, Australia, the US, and Canada, some doctors, a couple doctors, one who's a surgeon, military, U.S. Marine Special Forces,
Wow.
U.S. Army Intel, and who actually got wounded in action in Afghanistan, as well as a couple of just like software engineer types and a sniper. So it's a really unique mix, and a pro hockey player, actually, a pro hockey player as well. I forgot about Mike. So essentially a really eclectic mix of guys, not guys that tie their shoelaces together and not guys that have duct tape on their glasses. And, you know, there's a few software engineers here and there for sure, no doubt, but it's not just guys who are like, I've never had a girlfriend. It's usually guys who go, wait a minute, there's a thing out there that teaches a skill that I don't know that will give me a 5% edge or a 2% edge or a 1% edge in life.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up? And so it's really go-getters, action takers, high performers that we see come through here.
That's great. Yeah. So it's not just your typical, because, you know, you have these dating, I guess that's a whole world, right? Like all these pickup artists, all this cheesy type.
Yeah,
I guess that's like the dark side of what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, and it's just like the cheesy side too, because guys go, "How come your programs are residential and I can learn from this guy over the internet?" And I'm like, "Because that guy just wants your money."
Yeah,
you know, and it's
he's
like
just gonna sell you a bunch of videos.
Yeah, man. Like if you think that going up and creating a meaningful relationship is as simple as going, "Hey, who lies more?" then you are probably beyond repair, and I can't help you. / I don't want to, right? But if you're a guy that thinks that stuff is your only resort, well, the Art of Charm is the sort of white hat alternative. And there's a reason that people fly in from all over the world, even though in their own backyard, in their own country, there's probably some quote unquote dating coach who's really just a pickup guy who's like, I'll go to the club with you for $500. And we are not that. So yes, there's that. But that stuff it really misses the point, because the core sort of belief system, or the core, I guess one of the core values of the Art of Charm, is that your beliefs influence your actions, which influence your results. So it's all about mindset, right? If you don't like vegetables and you tell yourself that vegetables are gross, you're not going to eat vegetables, which is the belief influencing the action. And what happens if you don't eat vegetables? Let's oversimplify it. You don't get the nutrients you need. You can't build muscle. You get fat. You get soft. Whatever. Right? That's a belief system in place. If you just if you go eat vegetables, you idiot, then the person might be able to force themselves to eat vegetables for a few days. They'll get some, and then they'll slip, and then they'll fail, inevitably. It's the same thing with working out. If they go, working out is awesome, I can't stop doing it, I wish I had more time to do it, I wish I could do it more without overtraining myself, that's a good place to be, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people that love working out. They would do it all day if they could, but they know that's actually bad for them too, so they don't, but they have very healthy mindsets. They're in great shape. They eat well because they're taking care of their body. If they're forcing themselves to go to the gym, and every minute that they're there, they're like, this blows, I can't wait to go home and eat a gallon of ice cream, those people do not get fit, and they don't stay that way, that's for damn sure, right? So again, belief systems in every area of your life influence your actions, which influence your results. It's no different with social skills, and that's what we're training you here at the Art of Charm.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, that really, there is that point of you have to find the right balance, and you just even on the fitness side of things, where I just actually talked a little bit about it in the previous podcast, where you have some of these people that get so overly consumed with just building muscle or losing fat or just looking a certain way, where they become. I mean, to me, I think that's the dark side of the fitness industry that I really don't like, is the body dysmorphia type stuff, where people get so harsh on themselves and they nitpick themselves to death, or they turn into just narcissistic maniacs that you would read some of their captions and you'd think that, like, this is Alexander the Great or something. Like, oh no, it's just some dude who knows how to bench press.
Right. Like, check out my six pack that no one
Not even
about.
that. No, dude. That's tame. That's like whatever.
That's Bush. No. That's some Bush League bragging, right?
No, yeah. No, I'm talking about like you would have a wall of text talking about like achieving your dreams and you can do anything and taking over the world. Like,
oh yeah.
Nah, not really, dude. You just pick the weight up, you put it down, you eat the food, and that's So
yeah, there is a lot of that, and even in business, there's a lot of that too. I'll ask a lot of entrepreneurs. I talk to a ton of entrepreneurs, and there's some that are really successful, and there's some that aren't, of course. And we keep in touch on Facebook, especially with Art of Charm alumni, and I can tell when their business is going well and when it's not, because I'll say, "What are your plans on people's birthdays?" I always send them a message, and I'm just like, "What's up? What are your birthday goals?" And a successful entrepreneur is usually like, well, I'm going to get this app out and I'm going to launch this to an audience of 100,000, hope to turn it into 200,000 within 18 months.
Right.
And then I talk to the wantrepreneurs, like especially guys who sell, guys
That's
who
good.
sell like supplements online that they made up or whatever, or like some multi-level
or just
marketing
like
guys.
pills in a bottle. It's like I know a guy who.
Pills in a bottle, and multi-level marketing types, and they always go, world domination, the sky is the limit, and the world, the only limits are those that I put on myself, and I'm you will be in the exact same place next year, and I can look at our Facebook thread, and I can see, like, the year before that, they were like, I'm going to travel and be a freedom lifestyle entrepreneur, and the year before that, they're like, I'm going to make $1 million.
I just read 4 Hour Workweek, and it changed my life.
Totally. And it's just like, guys, you're killing me here.
Yeah.
Because it really is just like all this woo-woo sort of like non-actionable motivational stuff that just wears off after not a very long period of time. And you can tell those guys just are not successful. It's all about habit building. And successful habits require plans and goals, and not just like, my dreams are going to come true this year. You know, it's like, ugh, just spare me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I maybe it's just my personality or whatever, but I'm all for goal setting and having big goals, but I don't really sit around and think about it too much. Like, I just know where I'm going, and 95% of my attention is on the task in front of me. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing right now? I'm writing this thing because I have to get this little step done, and there are 2,000 more steps that need to occur before the big thing occurs. So who cares about the big thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's for sure true.
Yeah.
And people love to get their dopamine, so they're like, I want to focus on the big thing now, and then later on forget about it and go eat.
You know, there's actually research on that. There's I'm probably actually going to write a blog post on it one of these days, that showed that what it boiled down to is that people that talk about their goals more or talk about what they're going to do more are less likely to actually do it.
Yeah.
I mean, researchers, one of the theories was that it's just because, and this psychologically makes sense, that when you are telling somebody about this is what you're going to do, and especially start pumping it up and how you're going to dominate the world and you're going to be buying 10 Lambos and whatever, and then people, like, oh, that's so sick, you're so amazing, and you get that gratification, then the gratification that you'd normally have to work for, like if you go and do it and you go buy 10 Lambos, then people are going to, they're going to be like, wow, that's pretty impressive for what it is. But just by talking about it, you get some of that gratification, which kind of, takes a little bit of the wind out of your sails to actually get in action and do it.
Yeah, and that's dangerous because I love talking about my goals and I love talking about my aspirations.
Yeah.
But usually I'm talking about it when I'm not taking action on it. And I think a lot of people, they'll substitute that talk for action.
Yeah.
And if people are wondering what this is about, how many times have you heard somebody say that they're going to go to the gym tomorrow, or that they're going to start working out, or they're going to start eating right, or they're going to start a business? And if you're a dude, you've heard your friends be like, yeah, you know what? Next time I see that girl, I'm just going to like walk up there. And how many times has that actually happened? Right? And how many
I only know a couple guys that actually they truly don't give a shit, and they'll do anything. They don't care. They're not afraid to get rejected.
Right, but they don't talk about it either. Yeah. They don't go, next time I see her, I'm going to walk up there. No, it's just you're at the bar and you're like, where did Jordan go? Oh, he's already walking over to that girl.
Yeah.
I remember we saw her last week. It's like, it's a thing that people who are all talk, I mean, it's just, I can predict business success basically about how much BS you're spewing around. And, reading people for a living helps with that. And of course, running a successful business helps with that. But it really does give you that. I know that research, right? That gives you that dopamine, and you're just patting yourself on the back prematurely, and then you go back to your autopilot world where you don't do squat.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's get back to what you do. So teaching people, would you say you're teaching people how to be confident, or you're teaching them? Would you say you're teaching them how to be charming? Like, it kind of reminds me of like what's the famous Carnegie book, like How to Win Friends and Influence People or whatever. Like, tell me a little bit more about. I'm just curious. Like, how does this process work? Give me some inside scoop.
So basically we teach confidence and emotional intelligence. And so what that means is I'm not teaching you which fork to use. The Art of Charm team's not going to teach you, hold the door open. I mean,
it's not etiquette.
It's not etiquette. Charm is essentially getting the answers, getting things that you want out of life without having to manipulate your way to getting them, essentially, right? So getting people to like and trust you in a very authentic way is going to open far more doors than just being like a loud baller who bullies his way to what he wants.
Yeah.
And you see that in every aspect of business, from Hollywood to even to high finance, where I used to work as an attorney, to the law game. I mean, people are buying you, whether or not you're an entrepreneur or not. And if you don't have that aspect of yourself together, you will limit your success, period.
Yes.
There's a lot of startups. I live in San Francisco now. Art of Charm is down in LA, but there's a lot of startups, and man, these guys are geniuses, and they're doing all kinds of just insane, really potentially world-changing projects. No one will ever find out. They'll probably never get off the ground, or they'll get swallowed alive by a competitor because they're just weird, and they can't sell themselves, therefore they can't sell their product. They can't create the relationships that they need. And there's a competitor out there that has like one charismatic front man that's like, here's a cup that measures the calories that you put in it. And it's like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh,
and
wait, it's just a food scale.
Yeah. And other people are like, but we invented that already. And it's like, shut up, nerd. No one's talking to you, right? Because no one knows who those people are. And they're sitting there going, this will change the dynamics of blah, 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 whatever. No one cares. What does it do?
Yeah.
And so we teach you how to translate what's in your brain to effective communication, whether or not you're an engineer or a street performer.
I like it. I want to check. I mean, I haven't even. This is an area that mainly from a writing standpoint, have studied a fair amount in just being persuasive in terms of words. I mean, I think of Cialdini's stuff like influence and whatever, but I would say I've probably read 10 or 15 books on the subject of just persuasion and influence, and I think it's a pretty fascinating, especially some of the work out there that has a good basis in science and a good basis in research, because it is pretty fascinating. A lot of it is like, oh duh, of course kind of stuff, but it's not until you see it. Like once you see it, you immediately know, oh, that works. Like I don't even have to even test it. I know that works, just because you and I are in many ways programmed in the same ways. At least we're programmed culturally in very, very similar ways to respond to different things in different ways. And there are definitely, I think, just cues that we all come hardwired with that either, instinctively inspire trust and liking, or do the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like, what are some examples? What's some stuff that that the listeners that we could apply? Like, if we wanted to make, I mean, obviously you can never make someone like you, but if we wanted to have a better chance of having somebody like us or want to listen to what we have to say.
Yeah, it's funny because you just touched on something that I hadn't really thought of in a while. If you're either moving towards people liking and trusting you, or you're moving away. There's really no sort of neutral ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like, oh, I'm
unless you just, I mean,
contact.
even if you sit there and say nothing, I guess you're still probably like, there's maybe a chance it's neutral, but also that's probably more likely for people to think that you're antisocial.
Exactly. So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to encounter my boss at this work party. I don't want to encounter my boss at this event, so I'm not going to go, or I'm going to lay low. There's always going to be somebody that's moving towards it and somebody that's moving away, no matter what you do. If you think just avoiding a situation, and think about it like this. If you are a single guy or a single girl and you don't want people to not like you, what do? Maybe you stay home and you don't go to social events. Well, how is that working for your social life? Your social skills are actually deteriorating. Your social circle is actually deteriorating. Your dating life is non-existent. You're not maintaining a neutrality. You're actually moving away from any development whatsoever. So it's the same thing.
I know that life. If I have
field.
No social life, all I do is work and spend time with my family.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. And so same thing probably with working out. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat something that's bad for me, so I'm not going to eat anything at all. Well, actually, that's just, and you know more than I do, that's just as bad for your physique. Is not taking in 0 calories is probably even worse than taking in bad calories, depending on how much you're talking about.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, or a different analogy could be people, like when they're dieting to lose weight, a lot of times they think that they cannot eat certain types of foods under any circumstances. They think that, like, a square of chocolate, because of the sugar and because of the magic voodoo in chocolate, is going to automatically make them fat. So they'll go really hard in restricting foods. And then, I mean, you only can take that. Yeah, sure, maybe you could live without chocolate for a bit. But when you're restricting, when anything that tastes good to you, when you think that you can't eat, you have to be low carb. You have to eat on some weird schedule. You can only eat these certain types of proteins and vegetables. Some people, they get told some really terrible advice, so they go so hard in restricting it, then it just flips in the other direction, and they just end up binging. Whereas a more moderate, just having a little bit of what you like every day, making sure that it all just kind of fits is the way to go.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. I think that you're probably onto some exact same sort of similar concept that we teach or that we use at AOC as well. Because, like we had just sort of touched on, you're moving towards or away. And if you're not working on yourself, you're deteriorating. I mean, that's the same with a physical skill, as it is with your physique. It's the same as with any even emotional intelligence. So a lot of people, they'll do something like, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself, so they'll avoid a situation, or I don't want to trigger anxiety, and I don't like the bar and club scene, and that's fine. I don't either. But you have to push yourself through those uncomfortable situations, not even just bars or clubs or things like that. But if you're not dating because you're not meeting anybody that you like, so you're sitting at home, well, how's that working out for you?
Right. Yeah.
And so some of the things that we'll teach, even married guys who come through the Art of Charm is simply how to create and maintain strong social circles. And if you're not consistently refining the way that you show up to people, the way that you appear to people, then you're probably not working on yourself at all, because it's not about a fake persona. It's about figuring out what makes you authentic and how to communicate that most effectively. Because really, we're putting on a mask all of the time when we go out. And the goal of AOC, Art of Charm, is really to remove that mask as much as possible. It's so hard to do, but if you think about it, everybody has this. When you're at home by yourself, you're probably like singing. If you're at home with your wife, you're like singing and dancing and messing around, and you're being goofy. And then you go out in public, and you're probably not always like that, right? And maybe that's because you're worried that people will think it's a little bit strange. But really, if you did the same level of silliness with your wife at the mall as you did at home, there would be zero consequences in reality.
Right.
Right. Depending on how often that involves being naked, probably. But you really can get away with a lot more.
Depends where you go. If you go in the changing room, you can get away with it.
Exactly. And so it really does depend on a lot of what's inside. It's, again, your belief system. How much can you get away with? I mean, you actually spend, and we don't notice this because we're so used to it, doing it through our whole lives, you expend a lot of energy being fake, even if you're not thinking I'm being fake. You're just behaving yourself. You're not doing what naturally comes to you. That requires energy. That's why people who have to work in offices and stuff are tired at the end of the day. They're using a lot of brain power. They're using a lot of willpower, but they're not just being themselves otherwise. They're being professional, and that's why you can sit through a meeting and at the end you're like, I am over it. I'm tired. Because you have to bottle everything in that whole time. Why is sitting down in a chair and looking at a PowerPoint taxing? Yeah. Because you're forcing yourself out of your actual nature as a human. That's why. For like 8 hours. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. I guess it's just a personality thing for me. I've been someone, I just always kind of never really cared that much what people thought about me, so I tended to just kind of behave however I wanted to behave. I don't go out of my way to be rude or whatever, but I'm that guy that if somebody is saying something that I think is, they shouldn't be saying, I'm going to say something. Or my sense of humor is, I grew up on the internet, so my sense of humor is what you'd expect from someone that grew up on the internet. But I find that a lot of people, they find that refreshing, that I'm not an uptight type of person. I can be professional if I need to. I just don't really have to. There are only very select meetings with certain people where I know that I have to be professional. Otherwise, I'm just me. I say what I say, and I'm going to make the jokes that I make. And if people don't like it, then okay, I guess they can just not be around me. But it's bad. I find that easier. I mean, it's not that I go out of my way to offend, but this is the way I am. I'm not going to. Like you say, I'm not going to try to be someone that I'm not for 8 hours a day, just so other people can approve of me. You know what I mean?
Of course. And, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so in this world, though, like that's kind of how I guess I always was. I was just kind of didn't give a shit about what people thought and just did what I thought was right kind of person. But other people, they seem to, I mean, the people I know are much more wrapped up with reputation and what other people think. And, you know, if something gets posted on Facebook that they think is a little bit off, like sometimes I'll comment on friends' stuff on Facebook and say something that they don't want their other people, like they don't want other people to see that, you know, that I said that, because then they might think that they're kind of weird being associated with somebody that would make a joke like that. And do you think, is this something that anyone can learn, or, you know, is charm? Because when you think of charm, you usually think of just that you know, kid that grew up, everyone always liked him, and then he was the, you know, the high school, either maybe he was the high school, you know, football star guy, or now he's the politician or whatever.
Yeah, of course. It is learnable. And here's the thing. Yeah, you're right. People think, well, wait, no, that guy was cool in high school and now he's great now, or maybe he's not so great now, but everybody falls from grace. But people think, yeah, you're born with it. But here's the thing. That's one, it's a misunderstanding, and it's also an excuse at the same time, right? So, oh, I wasn't born with it. Well, okay, maybe. But it's easy to say the same thing about being tall and playing basketball. But
Yeah.
it's faulty logic, right? Oh, he's really tall, so he's really good at basketball. I know a lot of tall people that suck at basketball. Also, Spud Webb, so scoreboard, right? That guy was like 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah.
And he was a pro. He was pro on the Bulls with Michael Jordan. So it doesn't really matter if someone was born with it or not. The other thing is, no one's born with that. It's not a nature versus nurture type of thing most of the time. People who seem to have it younger as a kid, they just had different circumstances surrounding them.
Yeah, I think that'd be more of an environment thing, the type of environment they grew up in.
Exactly. There's circumstances that surround them that give them positive feedback, positive interactions. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend, she has two little brothers, and they were in high school back when we were dating, like 10 years ago. And so they were like really popular, cool kids, etc. And she was like, that's so weird. You know, I didn't get that gene. I was really quiet and not popular. And I thought, it's not that. Think about it. We're at her house. All her friends are over. They're all these like other hot girls, right? And we're hanging out in the pool, and her little brother's there, socializing, splashing, learning how to socialize around cute girls. He brings his other buddies from school in, and they're like, dude, at Matt's house, there's always a ton of hot girls and a college guy who lets us drink beer when the mom's not there, right? Because I was a dumbass and let them do that. So, like, you know, so he, of course, he was the cool kid, because when he had to deal with girls his own age at school, he was like, whatever. I just got done hanging out with a bunch of college girls. This is not hard.
Yeah.
And all of the guys were like, yo, you got to go to Matt's house. So he's the most popular kid around, because there's a bunch of girls in bikinis with, fully developed breasts hanging out at the pool. Like, everybody wanted to hang out at Matt's house. Yeah. So Matt was the cool kid. So he went to college and he stayed that way, right?
Yeah.
But if you were a nerdy dude, even if you had an older sister, or you decided you were shy and you minimized contact with them, then yeah, you had some awkward experiences. And then in school, that was reflected when you got rejected going to prom, or nobody asked you to the Sadie Hawkins dance. Now, lo and behold, here you are looking at a rejection from 8th grade, and you're 35 or 45 years old. And when you go to look at a girl that you think is cute, but you're afraid to talk to her, you're not thinking, well, in my recent experience, this logical reason happened that requires me to think that this will never pan out for me. You just go, oh, but in 3rd grade, Jenny didn't like me and went to the fair alone, and I felt sad. And meanwhile, that was 40 years ago, or 30 years ago.
And
it's
just
still
so
scars
buried.
you.
Yeah, it's so buried in your subconscious at this point. You don't even realize why you're so nervous. Yeah.
But the reason is because it affected your belief system.
Yeah.
And your belief system is influencing your actions, which are influencing your results. Boom, full circle, right?
Yeah.
Because your beliefs don't change by themselves. They change based on feedback. And the only way to get that is to continually push yourself out there. And if you get hurt once, no matter how long ago it was, and you withdraw into a shell, you will not get feedback that confirms that. And also, you won't be looking for it anyway. You're going to be looking for something that confirms what you already believe.
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
always going to be looking for something that confirms your belief. That's why people think, oh, well, I have bad genetics. No, that's just a convenient excuse. It makes you fat, and all your friends are fat. Do you think all your friends really have bad genetics? No.
Yeah.
You're all fat because you have crappy habits.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with anything else other than you're looking for evidence to back that up, because it's a hell of a lot easier than making real change. So guys will do that with social skills. They go, I'm pretty good with the opposite sex. Really? How's that working out for you? You're married happily and you have kids? Great. How's your business going, right? If there's some area of your life that is not working out, it is a direct result of your belief systems influencing your actions and influencing your results. Can the Art of Charm help you? Maybe. But if you decide that there's no way because blah, blah, blah circumstances, then no, we're not going to be able to help you.
Yep.
No one's going to be able to help you. And yes, then you are officially a victim. Congratulations, you're right. No one can help you. Right?
That sometimes is. I mean, I run into that here and there. I mean, the vast majority of people that I run into in my work are they've experienced that, but they're still willing to try. But I will run into that sometimes where it's very clear that a person doesn't particularly really even want to be helped. They just kind of want to have their current beliefs confirmed that it's this problem or it's that problem or it is just a genetic thing or whatever.
Indeed.
And so what you're talking about then is it's similar to the fitness thing in that it's changing behavior patterns. It's not really changing. You're not asking people to change who they are so they can, because when before I had gotten a little bit educated, like I said, I mean, I've read more from a standpoint of for copywriting and marketing and stuff and how to be persuasive and how to sell in that regard. But where you're not trying to put on a fake you think of the politician where, a lot of these people, they're going to smile, shake your hand, they're going to tell you all kinds of things, but then all kinds of things that they don't believe. But, when they're sitting around with their buddies smoking cigars, they're just talking shit about everybody they just shook hands with. It's more about changing your belief,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Changing your beliefs, which then allow you to change behavior patterns, but not necessarily, changing your personality or something.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's the opposite of inauthentic. What we're doing is a subtractive process at the Art of Charm. So what that means is rather than adding weird layers to your personality and figuring out how to, let's say, make you look cool in front of other people by pretending to be this, that, and the other thing, we don't do that. We don't need to do that. And what actually happens is we're taking away little flavels that people have where they go, all right, now, I'm showing up, a client might come into AOC, rather than being like, wear this cool light-up necklace. We're like,
pheromones all over your body right now.
Pheromones, yeah, all that other bull crap. We don't do that. We go, oh, okay. So when you get into a social situation, such as a cocktail party, you're trying to network with entrepreneurs, let's break this down. What happens? And they go, well, I'm looking for someone that I know. Okay, stop there. Why? Well, it feels comfortable. Okay, how has that comfort served you? Well, it makes me feel... Or they'll go, oh, I guess it hasn't. I need to break out of my comfort zone. We're like, wait, back up. Why are you doing it anyway? Well, it makes me feel less shy. And so, because I'm with somebody that I knew. And so I like it. Okay, well, good. Now, we know that that's like the short circuit right there, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is they go to the networking event, they look for someone they know, and they stay in their comfort zone there because they're afraid of, and we'll drill it down with questions over 60 hours. It's a residential program. You cannot escape, right? We'll drill it down to what's really happening, and it's usually down to something, just for an example, of, well, I don't want to feel alone at this event because I feel like ... not worthy of other people's time or not able to sell myself adequately or need somebody there for social proof. There's a million reasons, but what it comes down to is a belief that you're not good enough as you are for some reason, and we're not going to, have a kumbaya after that. We're going to just figure out a practical way to get past it and fix it with a drill or an exercise that will become a social habit that will get you past it. We're not therapists. We have therapists on staff, but we're not laying you down on the couch.
Yeah.
It's actual practical application, and that's why we have clients like Navy SEALs and military intelligence, because they don't need to go, oh, I didn't get enough attention from my uncle, my dad, uncle, mom, whatever, grandma as a child. We need them to go, oh, okay, so when I feel that, I need to do this in order to short circuit that negative process and that negative feedback loop and make myself effective in that situation. Because entrepreneurs, they want to get over their stuff, but really they want to be able to sell their business so they can make money.
Yeah.
And so we focus on the practical. And so we're going to drill down. We're going to take away layers, take away inauthentic masks that people wear. Because when you're connecting with somebody and you're being fake and salesy, you're not connecting with them. You're trying to, but even if that person's like, Jordan was really cool, they don't really know me. They know like the personality that I had on at that time.
Yeah.
That's
and a lot of people,
business.
I think their bullshit detectors are better than than many people think, when you're trying to...
of course. Yeah, they are. And so if people get a whiff of that, and women are especially good at this, you're screwed, buddy.
That female intuition.
Right, you're screwed, buddy, because if they go, nah, that guy was cute and he seemed cool, but something's up.
Yeah.
You're done. Because women aren't going to go, you know what, he was probably just nervous, and therefore he came across as a little bit flighty and inauthentic, but I'll give him another shot. They just go, that was creepy, something's off, ... I can't gamble with my safety because I'm a female, so next,
Yeah,
and you're done.
And especially if it's a girl that gets approached a lot. I mean, she's already going to have her guard up because she gets bullshitted so much.
Right, and you think she hasn't seen that before? I mean, that might work on little starlets in Hollywood when you're James Cameron, but if you're trying that on anybody with two brain cells to rub together, they're going to go, yeah, that guy, no thanks. Next. Because what you're saying is when you layer on a mask like that, you're prohibiting connection with other people, of course, because you're not really getting into rapport. And,
yeah.
That's something we teach a lot. But also, what you're subcommunicating, and it's all about subcommunication, is, hey, if you really knew me, you probably wouldn't like me, so I chose this personality over my real one because I want to fool you. And the girl's going, not only is this fake, but obviously his real personality sucks, or he wouldn't choose this one. So I'm going to pass because I don't even really like the fake one. So I'm certainly not going to like the real one.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
You know what I mean? They're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt and go,
of course
not. He probably feels some social anxiety, and that's understandable because that happens to everyone. No, they're going to go, well, if this guy's kind of on the fence, then your real personality must suck. So I'm just going to choose the confident guy who I know is going to be authentic and legit.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I totally agree with that. What would you say? So you brought up this point of, okay, someone's at a networking event and they want to stick to just the people they know because it makes them uncomfortable, whatever. That's probably a common mistake that we've all made, whether it be a networking event or a party or any sort of get together. I mean, we've all experienced that before. What are a couple other common mistakes? Like, say, what's a common mistake that whether it be approaching women or creating business relationships, that you see people making, and what they should do instead?
I think a lot of people are always trying to, well, man, where do I even begin?
Yeah, I know. Just anything that comes right off the top of your head.
I know. I mean, with business relationships, people are always asking about, they're trying to do this. There's sort of 3 levels to this, or maybe there's 4. There's the whole, like, I want this from you. Like the whole, hey, Mike, can I be on your show? And you're like, yeah, okay, fine. And then there's, hey, Mike, why don't I interview you, see if it works out. If the demographic overlaps and you get a lot of traffic from it, I would love to come on your show if it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
That's sort of level 2. It's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
And then or maybe that's level 3, but there's also like these other sort of guys who are doing it wrong where they're like, I'd love to have you on the show. And then you go on their show and they're like, great, now please post this and social media it and promote my business and sell my product on your website. And you're like, dude, what?
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah, I get hit with that. I mean, I don't take it personally because I understand what they're trying. They're trying to do what they think is, right and going to work. But I get hit with that quite often.
But it's like they're trying to give you value, but really they're not. Yeah. They're really just trying to get something, and they're veiling it in this cutesy, clever way where it makes it look like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
And then
which is just a
like,
copy-paste email. You're like, yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a trend now among internet marketers especially, because internet marketing, I know you sell things on the internet, but it is different. There's a trend where people go, wait a minute, I can sit home on my ass and just send like form letters to people, ... profit, right? And that's not how it works, but that's what other marketers sell when they teach marketing.
Yeah.
So, and then the level up from there is like, give value, which is this nebulous freaking comment and that's why people go, I would love to promote your stuff on my outlet, and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, yeah, but you don't have any following. And this is actually, now you're just asking for my time.
Yeah.
And then you want me to share it.
Have you gotten hit with
me to promote you?
Yeah, I mean, have you gotten hit with the people that come to you and they say, we're putting together this crazy summit of all these experts, and, it's going to be on the subject of whatever related to whatever, you're doing. And we want, a call from you. And really what it boils down to is they're going to each of these people and they line them up. They get them to agree to promote what's going to be this final product, which is just interviews, to all of their individual followings, to try to make affiliate money, where the person that the organizer, of course, is, taking a big chunk of the money. But I've turned those down out just straight up. Like, I don't like what you're doing. I don't agree with this kind of approach. Well, if that's what you think we're doing, then I guess you're not a fit. I'm like, what? That is what you're doing. What are you talking about? And they just never write back. But
yeah, of course. No, you're right. it's like, hey, I know that you think you invented this BS, but you didn't. What it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like,
you're the
been there,
seventh
done
this
that.
week.
Yeah, it's really funny. They're like, oh, well, if you don't want to spread your message to everyone, and it's like, dude, I know what you're doing is forcing all of us morons to promote you and mail it out.
And actually
and then
just
you're
make free money for you. Like really, we're
Yeah.
giving you all the content and then we're just promoting for you so you can make money. Okay.
to our own audience.
Yes.
And then and what do? You sign up for, thanks for the help, buddy. You signed up for free conference call and then like made
That's
a
really what it is.
spreadsheet with all of our names on it.
That is actually what it is.
And
yeah,
and
I totally agree on that point. I mean, that's
it's ridiculous.
That is a ridiculous thing. Neil Patel, he runs Quicksprout.com and some other stuff. One of the marketers, internet marketers who I really like, who just knows his shit and works hard. He wrote a blog post on this recently. And one of the things, I think it was like he used some sort of sensational type of title, like why you think rich people are douchebags or something like that. And one of the points, though, as he was saying, is like when you're approaching somebody that's successful, a business person or whatever, always look for what you can give. Like, what can you actually truly give them? Don't just come in asking for things right away, because, you know, if you have any sort of success in a field, you get that all the time. And even if it doesn't get you all worked up, you don't. It just, you know, you have to. If you're the person approaching that successful person, you have to realize that their time is short. And they get people wanting free stuff all the time. So if you come in really actually willing to give something before even asking to get anything, without necessarily even the expectation of getting anything, that puts you in a much better position.
Yeah, you're right. And in fact, this happened to me last night, and I'm going to give you this to you as an example. The guy is a bad example because he actually is a great person, but it came out super weird. And I'm going to actually go into my Facebook right now and grab the message thread so that I can sort of share it in an abbreviated fashion. All right. So this guy hits me up out of the blue, and he goes, wait, where's the start of this giant thread? I'm not going to read the whole thing, of course, but right. I was like, hey, thanks for listening to the show, because he like wrote me some random thanks, I love your show email. And I was like, cool, man, spread the word on iTunes if you would. And he goes, I don't use iTunes, but I'm going to do you one better. I really love your show, but it's probably not converting as much business as it should because I'm not interested in buying any of your products. First of all, don't tell somebody that and then ask them for something. But anyway, he goes,
that's
an
interesting way to begin.
Interesting approach,
you
right?
You basically are not good at selling your stuff. So let me aware you real quick.
And I'm like, thanks, guy who doesn't run his own business, telling me how, and not that I can't learn anything, but honestly, this is a multi-7-figure company and you're going to tell me that what I'm doing that's made all of that money is, it's not working for you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you're not really our target demo, but I digress. And then he's like, I'm interested in this stuff, but you know, I don't really think about coming to your program at the Art of Charm because I think that, you know, you haven't convinced me enough. And I'm thinking like, well, you know, I'm sold out 4 months in advance. What else do we need to do? He goes, my offer to you is this. I'm down to help. I don't want any money and I don't want to work with you officially, but I want to meet with you and chat. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I know what you think you're doing. You think you're offering me a lot of value, but what you're asking is for a meeting of my in-person meeting with me. And the value proposition is what I get to talk to you.
Killed and skinned. So
right. And I'm thinking, so you don't want a job. You don't want to let me, quote unquote, hire you, but you still want my time. Keep selling it, buddy. Right. And then I go, what do you have in mind in a nutshell? He goes, are you asking for recommendations now on Facebook? I said, yes. And he's like, well, off the top of my head, the pitch is off. You need to use videos, which we already do. And also you need different plugs in your show. And I'm thinking like, that's so vague. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. And that's what I had to pry out of you. What am I going to get out of you when I meet with you in person?
Right.
And then I was like, well, what else do you have? He's like, well, I haven't really thought about it. So wait a minute. You want an in-person meeting with me because I'm doing everything wrong, but you really haven't thought about how I would fix it. Now you're just really, really blowing it, right? And then I go, cool, I'll forward this to marketing. And he's like, well, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love this. And then he sort of backtracks a bunch. And he's like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, thanks for your time. And then he's like, I don't understand why you're not more stoked about this. He just flat out said it. And I was like,
this is I haven't had one even this weird. This is really weird.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
And I just replied because he kept going and going and going. I go,
You have
what
more
have you
patience than I
created?
would. I would have
I
like
know.
politely just ended it, a bit ago personally.
Yeah, no, I know. It's honestly, it's I do humor people because I have learned things from people that maybe have a crappy pitch.
Oh yeah, I'm
But
totally open to any suggestion, anything. Like I've gotten so many good suggestions and so much good feedback from people on books, on everything that I do. There's when it's this the whole tone of this conversation is just completely off, and you know that where this is going.
yeah, it's and honestly, I asked him. I was like, "How did you find us?" and all this stuff, trying to give him a chance to sort of like redo this whole botch. And he's like, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach. And I'm like, yeah, you and everybody else though. What have you
Okay.
done?
Yeah.
Show me the money,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you're a coach. Okay, got it. But what have you built? Why should I believe you? Where's your credibility?
Right.
And I straight up told him that, and he's like, no, there's no risk to you. I just want to give you a helping hand. And I'm like, I don't even care. I would rather give you $1,000 and lose it than meet with you for 3 hours and find out it was a waste of time. And he's like, you could step up your marketing the next day with my recommendations. And I'm like, you don't have any. You just told me you haven't even thought about this yet. And so it's like, I straight up said, how would you give me the plan for doing so? I could write it up, but I'd rather meet in person. I know. Now we get the real deal. You just want to meet. You don't actually have any value from me yet.
Right.
You just want to hang out with me.
Yep.
I can't afford it. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah.
So I told him no thanks, and I told him email me. I'll connect you with my marketing team because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to put my marketing specialist in touch with him, which, by the way, is the perfect person to handle this particular query because he's trying to help with marketing, and he's going to go nah, and he's going to blow the guy off, meaning he really just wanted to have a beer with me and not actually give me any help.
Right.
And I told him, I'm like, by the way, I get this every single day, and he was like, oh, thinking like, and that's the thing. Prime failure of perception is we might walk up to a girl and be like, I'm an engineer, I'm in good shape. And you walk up to a girl and you're like, hey, what are you drinking? And she goes, I'm busy. And you go, what a bitch. Here's the thing. You just did what every other guy did for the last pretty much 10 to 12 years of her life.
Right.
She's done being like, oh, nice to meet you, gotta go. She's over it.
Yeah.
You know what? And she doesn't know that you're not a crazy person like the last guy that talked to her 7 minutes ago.
And that
She
opens the
doesn't know that.
conversation in exactly the same way.
Right. She doesn't know that. So you go, this is terrible. She doesn't understand me. Because as guys, if a woman walked up and was like, hey, you're really cute. Do you want to go out sometime? We'd be like, oh my God, hell yeah. Where do I sign up? But meanwhile, every guy who walks up to her and says that is like, you might as well say, you want some D? Because she already knows what you're trying to get at.
That doesn't work? You don't teach that?
It does, but, that's like advanced level.
Oh, okay,
I don't want to
okay.
give that away on the show. No, but, it's tricky, and guys don't think about that because as a perfectly nice guy, that really should work because it is authentic. But we've got to learn to communicate that in a different way while remaining authentic and not a douche. And you're right. That is why people think rich people are douchebags, because I totally did. I totally... Years and years ago, I remember I was talking with Tim Ferriss because he was just starting his business and we were starting ours as well. And we were talking and I was like, man, how do you deal with all these people talking to you and emailing you? And he goes, I just ignore them. And I was like, isn't that mean? And he's like, trust me. And 2 months later, I was like, oh God, I'm just ignoring all these people now. I can't deal with it. So I hired an assistant because I do reply to everything.
Yeah.
But I can't sit here and deal with every single person that wants to quote unquote, give me value because it's really just this hidden, and this is that level 2 we were talking about, that hidden way for them to get something from you. It's not really altruistic. They don't realize that the opportunity cost of them not having their proverbial crap together is actually costing my company more money meeting with them than them just spitballing ideas over a beer for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah,
And they don't understand that.
Speaking of Tim Ferriss, this reminds me of something I saw on a blog post of his a while ago about some assistant. I mean, the guy might still be with him, I don't know. But the story of how his assistant came to work with him and is a similar type of thing. But the guy, he had a very well thought out, long, you could say, essay on. He didn't come across like you don't know what you're doing. Of course, he wasn't stupid and do it that way. But what he did do is he gave a very long, specific list of things that he thought he could help Tim with, and this is why Tim should believe the guy could do it. And if I remember correctly, I read it a while ago. If I remember correctly, in the beginning, the guy started doing the work for nothing. He didn't ask for money for it. He showed that he actually could get stuff done, and then like Tim took him on as his assistant, and then I don't know if they're still working together, but they had done several of his book launches together, and this became like a really important dude for Tim, somebody that he could go to and say, hey, I need this done, and the guy figures it out, But it started with really a cold email like that, but approached very differently.
Yeah, I mean, I know we digressed a lot and probably vented a little bit. I think a lot of people are going, what's up with these guys? But honestly, the message is here, and the message is you need to really actually think about how to deliver something and do it in a way that's super easy and essentially cost-free.
Yes.
The interns that work at the Art of Charm and guys that get jobs here, even though I'm not hiring, are guys that like literally do something where they go, hey, Jordan, I really think this guy's a good fit for the show. I've taken the liberty of digging up his contact info, drafting an email that introduces you to, but I didn't want to send it without okay from you first because then you might feel compelled to reply.
Yep.
Reply okay to this message, no need for anything more, and I'll send the intro if you're interested. Otherwise, just ignore this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'd love an intro to this author not having to do anything. He did that like 20 times. And then finally, he was like, by the way, I noticed this other thing was wrong with your website. I know how to clean this up. I've researched it. It'll probably improve your traffic by 5%, which in my estimation could make you a certain amount of money. I don't really know because I don't know your actual numbers. If you'd like me to do this, I will happily do it for free. But then next time I do it for another one of your websites, I'd like to be paid an hourly rate of $50. And I go, cool, do the first one for free. Then we'll see how it pans out. He did the first one for free. I made like, I don't even know how many thousands of dollars. So he paid for himself 10 times over. And I was like, when can you do the next website? Yeah. Now he does all my web work because I trust him. He knows what he's doing. He ends up making me money. That's how you get a job. You don't get a job by going, no, I know these secret things. Oh, well, I haven't really thought of them yet, but I probably know a lot of stuff that could help you because, whatever. Oh, and also I'm a big fan of your show. Please hire me or please spend time with me. Yeah. No way, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, so that's I want to go just one other mistake. So that's with business. We covered like a sort of networking type of mistake people make. And then there's a business mistake, which I totally agree with, and I've run into it many times myself. And there is definitely a great lesson, even though it was kind of, maybe it seems a little bit like a tangent, but it's not. There's an important, I think that's a very important thing in terms of building relationships, is focusing on what you can actually do for people. And it's one of the things that's worked very well for me. I spend a couple hours a day going through I answer everything myself. And I guess my space is a little bit different. I don't get very many like, let me add value to your life. Most people are just book readers and they have fitness questions, or they just want to tell me they like what I'm doing. But I never charge for that time. I answer what I'm doing. A lot of other people in my position wouldn't even bother with. And I do it because I enjoy it, and people really, really genuinely appreciate that, and it really helps build. I mean, it helps build relationships. And at this point now, I could say that I've built relationships really with, I don't know, a couple thousand people that could email me tomorrow, and I'm going to remember them, and and they're going to feel like they have some sort of connection with me, and that definitely has a lot of value. So let's say with women then. So what's like a common mistake that people make with trying to get a girl? Like, they see a girl that they want to speak, they want to talk to, or they want the girl to like them or whatever. There's the standard opening with stupid pickup lines or stuff like that. But what's something else? I'm genuinely curious.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, and stop me if I've already mentioned this maybe in our other interview, but people don't realize when the first impression is made. Did we talk about that already? You might have to.
I don't think so. No.
Refresh my memory.
No.
Okay, because whenever I go off on a crazy person tangent, I often lose my train of thought on everything else.
Right.
But yeah, essentially, people don't know when their first impression is made, and what I mean by that is, especially when it comes to business or when it comes to guys in the opposite sex. So let's use a dating analogy, because a lot of what we focus on at AOC is dating related. Mm-hmm. Essentially, guys will do the following. They walk into a bar with their friends. They spot a bunch of cute girls. They go, all right, cool, let's get drinks. They get drinks. They circle up. They go around the place to look for other maybe cuter girls or different cute girls, get the lay of the land, right? Well, here's the problem. they're continuing, they might finish their drink, and then they might go up and talk to a couple girls, and the girls are, maybe they're responsive, maybe they're not. But sometimes what guys don't realize is they've already blown it. And what happens is they walk past those girls, they had certain type of body language, they had a certain type of appearance, they had a certain way of relating to other people in the venue, relating to the server that they had, the way that they ordered the drinks, the way that they behaved around their friends, the way they behaved around others. That was their first impression because they became a blip on the female radar, to use the National Geographic version, right? They became a blip on her radar when they walked in. But guys think, we think, and humans in general think, our first impression is made when we, quote unquote, make our move. So the guy thinks, I'm going to go up there and talk to her and it's going to be funny and creative and cute. No. She's already decided whether or not she's going to talk to you well before then. It's when she noticed you. So if you're good looking, it's probably earlier. If it wasn't, maybe you're lucky. In fact, you might even be luckier not being super stellar, tall, and good looking, because you can afford to screw up a little bit more in the beginning and make it up on the back end.
Right.
But the problem is guys do that all of the time, and then they go, God, why are girls so short with me? Why was she so short with me? She already decided whether or not she was going to blow you off pretty much before you even had a chance to open your mouth. And probably before you even started walking up to her, she was like, nope. Waited 20 minutes to talk to me, being a chicken, right? And, or nope, saw him be a douche to the server. Or nope, he ran into a guy and was like, watch where you're going. Total turn off. You've already messed it up.
Yeah.
You've already blown it.
Yeah.
And that could be, she might have seen you there last week acting like an a-hole.
Yeah.
And that was your first impression. And you don't even know because you didn't even see her.
Right.
So... And we do this in business situations as well.
Absolutely.
We might go to a mixer or something like that, or a networking event, or we're talking with other people and we're blowing off folks, or we're circling around eating appetizers or waiting for our friends to show up. And then you might find out that, oh, I do know the guy who's running it. And that's the guy you want to talk to. So you're being weird and hovering around us. And then after I talk to the guy who runs it, you're all, hey, my name's John. How you doing? And I'm like, why are you so chummy now? Whereas before, I was here hanging out with other people. You didn't think I was worthy of your time at that point. What's the deal? Oh, wait a minute. You want me to introduce you to that guy? No, thanks. I'm out of here. And I'm going to remember that for a while.
Yep.
And then you're going to go, oh, hey. Oh, and I get this all the time, especially coming from Silicon Valley, where I live now. I'll go to an event in New York or something, and maybe I'm dressed informally. Or maybe I'm even here in the city, and I'm just kind of like slumming it, which is my own first impression. But somebody will go, oh, I'm here to do this business thing. I'm here to network, whatever. And we'll chat. We might be polite. Maybe they'll blow me off or something like that. And then they'll find out, oh, wait, Jordan is one of the speakers at this event. Or, oh, wait a minute, he's got a show that has 800,000 people listening to it. Wait a minute, now I want to be all chummy, whereas before you didn't have the time of day. Yep. So what that tells me is, you're not really interested in connecting. You're interested in getting something from me. So I'm going to be very short with you at that point because I don't want to deal with you if you just want my audience. Why didn't you have time for me before when we were just chit-chatting? Oh, because you're the type of person I cannot rely on because you're not actually looking to give any value. You just want something for yourself. And people in my position and in your position, we learn to deal with that. We learn to sniff that out in advance because it's our daily reality as a successful person running a business. And we can't afford to waste our time with those people.
Yeah. Yeah, I've run into that. I mean, there's that version of it where, when they're just chatting with you, they don't realize you're doing anything or whatever, and then they realize it and they change their tone. Or, I mean, I've had that, but I've also had where people that knew me before I'm doing what I'm doing now, that never cared to talk to me. They didn't care what I was doing. I was nothing to them. And now all of a sudden they hear I've sold a bunch of books, or I have a big website, or I have a supplement company, whatever. And all of a sudden they they want to hang out. They want my advice on business things they're doing. And I mean, like you, I politely blow them off. Like I just straight up tell them like, oh wait, but 2 years ago you didn't care. Like don't come talk to me now asking things from me now. Because just 2 years ago you didn't even want to speak to me. So there's been some of those awkward moments. I don't care though. I'll just straight tell them because I think that type of behavior is shitty, and I think they should be called out on it.
You know what? I agree. I tend to be, it sort of depends on who it is, but I try to be as polite as possible. But it's so funny because I'll be like, hey, reach out to me in a few months or something like that, and just hope that they'll forget, because most people will.
Yeah.
But you're right. Other times I'll be like, no, I'm not going to help you with this, and here's why.
Yeah.
And it feels pretty good, but you got to kind of balance that. You got to kind of balance your own ego with like real results.
Yeah.
Because again, small world, if those people become really successful, or even if they don't and they just meet other folks, you don't want them being like, oh yeah, Jordan's a total dick.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really a double-edged sword. But I do think you're doing them a favor by calling it out, because I think that people go through the beginning stages of a business not really realizing that their relationships with other people matter, and that these little nuanced communications can make or break a business. There's, like I said, there's tons of startups in Silicon Valley that will never get anywhere because they're terrible at selling themselves, and they're terrible at the impressions that they make regarding their product. And so a competitor with maybe an inferior product and a little bit of better startup game is going to school them.
Yeah. Yeah. And also this first impression thing, you kind of like, there's maybe a lesson in there, even going back to women. I mean, that don't judge people so quickly. I mean, especially you talk about like when you're slumming it, right? Like I wear gym clothes. That's what I wear. I go to the gym early in the morning and I work all day. Like why would I dress in nice clothes so I can sit with my staff and at my computer all day? Like I just want to be comfortable. If I could just not even wear pants, and if I could just wear underwear all day, I would just do that.
I hear that, man. I hear that.
But so if somebody were to see me walking around, they'd be like, "Who's that random meathead dude? In his workout clothes every day." And I mean, I always joke that like there's the rich guy uniform. Like if you see an older dude, clean cut, wearing all Nike gear, that guy's rich. If it's all Nike workout gear, it's like a joke, but it's one of those funny things we've just seen so many times. Like, my dad's neighbor has tons of money, and that's all he wears, Nike workout gear. And if you saw him around, you'd think, whatever. The dude's worth $200 million Nike gear all the time. Another friend of mine, he has a big software company. He's become more and more bummish the more money he makes. Where now sometimes his hair's like, sometimes he looks so ridiculous. His name's Steve. I'll be like, Steve, seriously, you should get a haircut. You actually are starting to look homeless. He's like,
yeah, totally.
He's like, whatever, dude.
You look like a schizophrenic person. Like, please.
He's like, whatever, long hair, don't care. Like, what do I don't know how to impress anybody.
You know what? It's true, and it's funny because I actually consciously think of this. I still suit up when necessary.
Sure.
I like to present a professional image.
Yeah.
But there's just something to be said for going to an event where everybody's worth like $10 million, and I'm like, I'm going to wear shoes that I'm not going to tie, jeans with a hole in it, and a T-shirt. And then people look at you and they're just like, Silicon Valley, huh? And I'm like, yep. And they're like, you freaking dick, because they know. But it's fun. It just feels good to do that. But on the other side of the coin, you got to be conscious of your first impression.
Yeah.
It might be fun for me to do that sometimes, but realistically, if I'm trying to partner with a media company and I show up like that, that guy might be old and stodgy, or he might be young and stodgy, and he might be thinking, if you're willing to show up like that, it shows me that you don't really care as much about your impression, and that's what you're supposed to be teaching guys.
Yeah.
So I don't buy it. I'm not going to do business with you, and that's a risk that you run.
Sure.
So it's no matter who you think you are.
That's just a matter of being smart.
It's a matter of being smart about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like in the day-to-day life, it's sometimes I think people will make too quick of judgments, and then even it could be going back to that scenario with if you come into the club or the place or whatever, and you're walking around and you're kind of you blow off the waiter or whatever. It might be you actually might be a great guy. Maybe the waiter did something that was rude, and maybe the waiter said something to you, but the girl doesn't see that. She just sees how you behaved, or maybe you had a momentary lapse of whatever. So it also, they can work in that way too.
You're right. And so that's why it pays to maintain your composure at all times, and it pays to be able to read between the lines and be able to sub-communicate as well.
Yeah.
Because if you can't, you will lose. And when it comes down to it, it's all about people buying you. They buy you. They don't buy your product. People do business with people that they like,
yes,
even if it's not the best deal for their company.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, well, I'm sure we could just go on and on. It's there's plenty of interesting things to talk about, but
man, I'll tell you, this went in a totally different direction than I thought it was, because usually we do teach like body language, eye contact, nonverbal communication, lie detection through body language. Just name it. There's 300 hours of audio.
Wow.
on the Art of Charm podcast. So I would say that if people are looking for anything even remotely tangentially related to what we discussed today, check out the Art of Charm podcast. You're already listening to podcasts. TheArtOfCharmPodcast.com has them on the web, but iTunes, any podcatcher, any app you're using will have it too. And it's a top 50 iTunes podcast, and usually I behave myself probably a little bit more so than I did here today. So I encourage
it's all
you
right.
to
This
check
is
it
how
out.
I always am. So if someone's listening,
That's how you roll.
They're used to it.
Good.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely, I highly recommend Jordan's stuff. As you see, he's a great guy, and I like the angle that you take on it, which makes it, like you said, it's an authentic thing, and it makes it genuinely applicable to life, not just how to run cheesy game on girls in clubs.
Exactly. It goes so far beyond that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying so.
Yeah, totally. So thanks a lot for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and we'll have to do it again.
You got it. Talk soon.
Okay.